I was a sailor on HMAS Perth. We got into a big fight one night against the Japanese fleet in the Sunda Strait, between the islands of Java and Sumatra. They outnumbered us and finally sank us. I learnt later that 357 of my mates died in that fight, but 320 of us were taken prisoner, though 106 of these died in captivity. I'm surprised it wasn't more. We were starved, beaten, kicked, punched, treated like animals as prisoners. But most of us survived. We stuck together. We helped each other. Looked out for each other. I think that's where mateship really helped. We looked after each other, and if someone just couldn't survive, he never died alone. There was always a mate there to try and ease his death. When I got back to Australia, eventually it was still pretty hard. Lots of us were changed by the experience, had a lot of difficulty fitting back into society. It was hard on our families as well. It was hard on those wives, hard on the kids as well. Many marriages broke up because the husband had returned a stranger and a damaged man. I was changed by conflict. Well, I don't think you'd be very interested in my war. I was no hero. Didn't get to fire a shot. Didn't get to see the enemy. Didn't even get to get out of Australia. My war was spent up north, guarding against an invasion. I suppose it was necessary, but it got pretty boring much of the time. Still, I saw bits of Australia that I thought I would never see, that people I normally would never have mixed with, and all that made me a better Australian, I think. So I think that's what war mainly meant to me. Learning more about Australia and being a better Aussie, I was changed by conflict.
My name is Leslie Mace, and I am Harrison Phillips' great-grandmother. I was born on the 15th of August 1924, and I was 15 years old when World War II began. Boys and men joined the armed forces, and there were a lot of people in uniform around, but it all seemed so far away. It didn't affect daily life much, but it did dominate the news and affect a lot of people when the casualties started to come through. It was all very sad. In 1942, rationing was introduced, and everyone was issued with a coupon book for food and clothing. There was no luxury items such as chocolate, but families shared their coupons, and we were never short of food. A few months after I turned 18, I joined the AAMWS, or the Australian Army Medical Women's Service, and I served from the 5th of December 1942 until the 18th of December 1943. When I first joined, I was sent to a training camp at Mount Martha, Victoria, and did drills and marching for 3 weeks. We had to sleep on a palliasse, a straw mattress on the floor. After that, I was stationed at Victoria Barracks, the Army headquarters in Melbourne, where I worked as a clerical worker, doing shorthand and typing. I was then promoted to corporal and transferred to Greenslopes Hospital in Brisbane, where I also did clerical work. I travelled from Melbourne to Brisbane in a troop train. It was very uncomfortable. There were 6 people in a carriage, and it was very slow, stopped a lot, and took about 3 days. I was at the hospital for about 6 months, living in barracks, and then I got a discharge for medical reasons. I returned to Melbourne and later got a job at the GPO, or General Post Office, as a telegraphist. The war ended for Australia on VP Day, Victory in the Pacific, on the 15th of August 1945. The city of Melbourne was full of people celebrating. I will never forget it, as it was my 21st birthday. I was changed by conflict.
I flew as part of a bomber crew operating over Europe. This was just about the most dangerous job of the war, with a very high casualty rate. Our job was to fly over the big industrial areas of the enemy and bomb them. If we ruined their factories, that would make it harder for them to fight, because they wouldn't have as much equipment and ammunition. It was a pretty scary job. We flew at night, and when you got close to the city, they would try to catch you on a searchlight. If they did, then they would fire their big anti-aircraft guns at you, and you didn't have much chance. We would drop our bombs on the targets and get out of there as quickly as possible. Dropping the bombs was the hardest bit. You had to fly straight so the bomb aimer could see the target and drop the bombs accurately. That's when you were most likely to get caught in the searchlights. If you were damaged, you had to fly back, and maybe the enemy's fighter planes would come up and try and shoot you down. Sometimes a plane would fly all the way back to England damaged, and still be able to land safely. We used to count the planes coming in from a raid, hoping that your best mates were not in one of the ones that never came back. It was hard on us, but it was hard on the people in the cities we dropped bombs on, too. We tried not to think about it. We knew they were the enemy. We knew they were trying to kill us. But deep down, we also knew that they were people just like us. I was changed by conflict. My war experience was pretty typical of my generation, I think. My father had been in World War I, so I had a sort of feeling that it was my turn to go when the second one started. We were sent to Tobruk first. The rats of Tobruk, they called us. Well, we felt like rats trapped there in the heat and the sand and dug into our little burrows. Perhaps more like rabbits than the rats. But we were pretty keen as mustard, like they used to say, and we managed to hold out against the best that the Germans could throw at us. Then they sent us back to Australia to go to New Guinea when the Japanese came into the war. That was no picnic, I can tell you. Most of the time we were in the mud, or heat, or freezing cold, climbing, until the muscles in our legs were aching so painfully you couldn't go one step further. You'd rarely see the enemy. You'd hear him and hit the dirt when his bullets were whizzing around. But the jungle was so thick you could hardly see a few meters in front of you. I fired off lots of shots in New Guinea, but I've got no idea if I ever hit anyone. We had to rely on the local people to carry our wounded back. They were the real heroes, those people. I don't know how they carried the stretchers and other equipment up and down steep mountains, through the mud, over little log bridges, through streams, back to the base hospitals. Many a digger owes his life to those blokes. I finally got hit at one stage. Did some permanent damage, so that was the end of my war. I still think about it sometimes. I remember the faces of my mates who didn't make it. Forever young they are, forever young, while the rest of us grow old. I was changed by conflict.